Hello, it's Keith here, and this is a special video which is supposed to be celebrating me reaching 8k subs, and I was defining 8k as 8192. However, I recently sent a copy of my book to EEV blog. Apparently it turned up, and I guess it was on the mailbag, because 200 subscribers turned up in one day. Now this is usually what I gain in a month, so rather than reaching the 8192 target next week sometime, I made it when I wasn't expecting it, so the video wasn't ready. Anyway, the 8k subs video, I was promising to do something a bit special, so rather than discussing the recent progress on the channel or what I've got planned next, we'll do that kind of thing maybe for 10k subs. This time I was going to do something a little bit different. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you all of the tools that I've collected together that I use to make my videos. The idea being that maybe you'll find some of these useful, and the other thing is some of these are fairly hard to find now. Some I've kind of made my own or tweaked myself, and I'll make them all available to you for download, the ones that aren't widely available, so that you can gain them, and maybe if there's some use to you in your own videos, you know, maybe this will help you out, maybe it'll give you a little bit of a leg up, or maybe it'll inspire you to try if you've never tried making your own videos before, because it can be a lot of fun. Okay, well, let's go over the tools that I use. Okay, well, the main tool, of course, that most people use for video recording is, of course, OBS. This is my OBS window, you can see here. It's a bit big for the screen. My monitor's actually 4K. I just crop certain areas of the screen for the left-hand and the right-hand windows that I switch between when I'm doing development work. So I use OBS for video recording. I now have a Stream Deck device, which I use for remote controlling the windows, switching between things. Now, I actually use a portable apps version of OBS Studio. I find that easier, doesn't tie into the registry at all. And I was able to get Stream Deck working with it by transferring the plugin across. I had to install it on a normal install copy and then transfer the plugin because it wouldn't install onto my portable version, but it does work. Now, the key presses, the vast majority of them, I actually map to unofficial or extended rather function keys. So F13 and onwards I find work best with regards to the devices that I have on multiple windows. For example, my zoom window here, if I press this, when I switch between them, it's open on both, and I found that using function keys allowed that to happen because it would respond to each of them simultaneously. So yeah, this is the tool that I use for switching between my windows and for turning on little novelty items like showing adverts and switching on the calculators. If I press that TubiCalc button here, you can see the calculator over there, and if I press this one next to it, you can see it pops up there. So I've got lots of flexibility with regard to controlling the things that I might want to happen quickly. I did try and buy a much cheaper device before. It was like a macro keyboard, but you couldn't configure the macros to do very much. OBS doesn't work very well with complex combinations like Control Alt Shift and F1. That won't work unless the OBS window is selected, so it was just not viable, and that's a limitation of the way OBS scans the keyboard apparently. The function keys F13 onwards did work with OBS, but they didn't work with that macro keyboard, so that's why I bought this far more expensive Stream Deck device, which despite being very expensive is a lot better for the functionality that I wanted, because I'm working now with a lot more little toys to try and make the videos more interactive, like my chibi board, my blackboard. If I just press that, this is the blackboard. I've got my little theatre window, which is for playing videos, and the book, which is for viewing PDFs. So these are all little toys that I'm starting to add into my latest videos to try and make them a bit more fun to watch and give them a bit more of a unusual, exotic feel, shall we say, just to make things a bit more exciting for people while we're discussing programming. So the Stream Deck is really helping me out with that. Now, the tools that I'm using, well, the one that I'm using very heavily now is the zoom tool, which is this thing here. Now, the one I'm using for this is this one, which I'm not even sure I can pronounce correctly. I think that's Magnifixa or Magnifixa. This is the best one I've found. I used to use Pick Portable, but that didn't update when the mouse wasn't moving, and so if I pointed the mouse at a game window and the game was updating, the zoom wouldn't update, so I wasn't finding that very helpful. Now, while I've got this mapped to the Stream Deck program, you can see it just here, I don't actually use that. I've got it mapped to the tilde key of my keyboard, and to do this I've used Sharp Keys. Now, this is a tool that allows you to remap keys on the keyboard, and so I've mapped my tilde key to the F17 key, and that allows me to use the tilde key on the keyboard to automatically do the zooming without removing my hands from the keyboard. And I've also got the right mouse button option, which I can never remember the name of. I think it's called the application button. I've got that mapped to mute, but I don't tend to use that very often. basically the Stream Deck's taken over everything except the zoom, but there weren't enough keys that I didn't need for my emulators and programs that I could get away with using sharp keys to remap all of the keys to all the spare function keys, even though if I was using a much more limited key set, that would have worked. So that's a sharp keys is great for getting around that limitation of OBS Studio not reading in Control Shift type multiple key presses when OBS wasn't the selected window. So yeah, Magnifixer is very handy for my zoom, absolutely fantastic, and sharp keys is absolutely fantastic for remapping your keyboard, although that's permanent for all applications. This computer I only use for editing my videos though, so it doesn't matter too much if some of the keys don't work, as you might expect on other applications. So those are the ones that I highly recommend. Now, when I'm doing my programming, I of course have my on-screen keyboard. Now, the program I use for this is a modified version of OSD Hotkey. Now, this is an auto hotkey script, I believe that's what the program's called, and so I modified the script myself to make it work slightly differently. I think the original one responded to the mouse and things. I turned that off because I didn't want that to be making the screen too confusing. I changed the layout to make it more suitable for my tool, and of course you can see I've got this fake VFD display here, and that's just an overlay effect within OBS. I use a lot of overlay effects, so that's how I do my hotkeys, and I'll make that available to you. Because as I say, it's been modified quite a bit. Now, when I do my programming, of course, I've got the mouse with that highlight around it. I was looking for a free program that would do a highlight effect and that would be captured by OBS. The original one I found OBS didn't capture, and I really couldn't find one, and there was one I could pay $10 for, but I wanted to try and use entirely free or open source software. And so what I did is I simply made my own mouse cursor set. So the cursor sets, I just edited the Windows ones, and I just put a semi-transparent highlight around them, and that worked very well. What didn't work so well is I made an animated set with a spiral effect, and OBS doesn't capture the animations, so that was a waste of my time. But anyway, I'll make this set available to you again if you want to use it. If it's any help to you, go ahead. It's the only way I found when I looked that you could get a free highlighted mouse set, because as I say, the applications that offered that functionality either weren't free, or the one that I found that was, OBS didn't capture. So yeah, that was a bit of a shame. Now, another tool that I find extremely useful for certain videos is Frequency Analyzer, which has for some reason shrunk itself down to virtually nothing. Now, this is a sort of oscilloscope graphic equalizer program, and this is fantastic. You know, when I'm doing tutorials regarding making sound, you can see the sound on the screen, and it's great for visualizing square waves and things. Unfortunately, I believe the website that originally released this program is now offline. When I got this, I had to find it in archive.org. So I will make that available. I'll put that in part of my package. It's not something I wrote, but I think it's getting really scarce on the internet now. So I want to make that as widely available because it's absolutely fantastic. It does exactly what I wanted, and I've never seen another program that does do exactly what I wanted. So yep, that's one I would totally recommend. Now, like with a lot of the tools I'm using, I've added a cute little effect here, and the sizing's obviously gone wrong there. I'd have to fix that, but I often layer effects so that you can have the functionality with the nice retro design at the same time. But it does all depend on, in some cases, the scaling of the window and also the volume that's being recorded. It might just be the volume's too high for that in this case. So yeah, I say that's another tool I would very strongly recommend if it's useful to you. Now, one other tool that I've started using recently, which is fantastic, is Autosizer. Now, when I work with my videos, I need to have windows in certain places. I always have my web browser on my left window, the red window, and I have my program code on the right window, the green window, and so I needed those to sort of load in the right positions. And I've also got various other accessories loaded up, like the OSD hotkey and things, and I need those out of the way, and I need my OBS in the right place so my eyes looking at the camera and things. And so Autosizer can do all of this for you. It's a program I only came across a couple of months ago, but it's very functional, and it allows you to configure the position and size of windows, and it allows you to define how to identify them by a full window title, part of a window title, or class name, which seems to work extremely well. I think that actually works better than OBS's window detection. I don't think OBS can do partial window title, so it doesn't quite work as well. Sometimes gets confused by applications with the same class name. So that again if you're looking for the ability to position windows, and also it can set up Windows always on top as well. Although I do have another application I've tended to use called On Top, although I think that has trouble with some modern Windows 10 applications. I think that maybe only works well with Win32, so I have seen that not work well with some other more modern applications. So those are the main applications that I found that are really, really useful recently. One thing I have added recently is Chibi Calc, which is really, it doesn't add any amazing functionality over the default Windows calculator, but I just wanted something fun with a nice retro look that was unique to my channel and gave me the functionality in the most direct way that felt logical to me and with the nice color scheme. So I wrote my own simple little calculator program called Chibi Calc. I'll make this available to you. It's already in the Z80 tools. All you need to do is run it, but you just need to install the font, which is a free font, and I'll include that as well so that you get the digit display. So yeah, that's a nice little tool that I've started using, and hopefully people appreciate it. But as I say, functionality wise, it doesn't offer any significant benefits over Windows Calculator. Now, I've been playing with a few of the little toys recently. One of them is the video window. This is just a silly little toy, really. It just shows whatever OpenView shows. So if I just drag an icon into my OpenView window, then the theatre screen will show that. I've also got my book view, which is actually just a copy of Sumacha PDF, again with just an effect applied to it, just to make, as I say, try and make things feel a bit more retro and a bit more fun maybe. So that's another toy that I've started using. One that I'm hoping to make better use of and will be more effective is the blackboard. That's what you can see here, and this is just a Krita window with a layering effect again, and I just use my graphics tablet to draw on it, and you can see here it's literally just a Krita window there, nothing special at all. It's just a little effect that I'm trying to add in to make things feel a bit more classical, as in, you know, a bit of a retro feel to the education style, and also just to keep things a bit more varied so that I'm not always talking in a monotone fashion and everything just feels the same. You know, if we switch between a few different styles here and there, and I explain it to you, I show you a program, and then I scribble something on a blackboard, if one doesn't work, maybe the other will help in the way you find it easier to learn. So there we go. That's all I'm going to be covering today. As I say, hopefully you found some of these vaguely useful. I will make all of the ones that aren't widely available or that I wrote or modified available on my website. Ones like Hotkeys and obviously Krita, they're just all over the place, so I'm not going to bother because I'm sure you can find those very easily. But ones like Frequency Analyzer, very hard to find last time I looked, so I will definitely make that available to you, so if it's useful to you, you can use it. And as I sort of say, I'd certainly suggest you give this kind of thing a go if you've never done so before, because it's definitely worth a try. It's quite fun, and while I was very unconfident in the early days of doing this, talking on camera and having to watch yourself back and edit yourself, listening to yourself back again on camera becomes easier and easier the more you do it. So you know, it's not necessarily something to worry about, even though for me, at least in the early days, it certainly was. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you don't know about it already, I'd like to tell you about my book that I've written. It's called Learn Multi-Platform Assembly with Chibi Akamas, and if I press one of those Stream Deck buttons, this little transparent animation will show on screen and tell you about it. So I'd really like to thank everyone who's subscribed and watched the videos, especially all of those new people who've come from EEV blog. That's extremely kind of you, and I hope I can make some content that you enjoy. Anyway, thanks for watching today, and goodbye.